and welcome to Practically. My name is John Stevenson. Thank you very much for joining me. Today we're going to have a quick look at creating a pull request with Spacemacs for Spacemacs. Quite meta. So we've already gone into Spacemacs and installed by simply cloning the repository into our .emacs.d directory. And so I'm already using that, so you can go in and edit the files in there and create your own changes in Spacemacs. If you want to keep those changes, you'll have to keep them in a separate branch, but ideally, if they're good changes for the rest of the community, then you can contribute them back as a pull request. So we go into our editor. So we go and open up, here we've got the Spacemacs README file, which is the file I actually want to change. And this is going to open up the Spacemacs file, the Spacemacs project in Emacs as well. So when I do space git status, it's got all the changes for Spacemacs itself, so I can actually go and look through there. And I've just recently updated Spacemacs, so I've got all the latest changes in here as well. If you were behind on Spacemacs develop branch, then you could simply just do capital F and pull down the latest changes. So U to get them from origin develop, which is where Spacemacs is. Obviously, if you've got changes, you'll need to stash them before you do that. I've got a change here that I want to apply, and so I can go in here, I can press enter and go and look at the change. This is just a documentation change, so fairly simple. So I don't need to do any testing per se. This is just adding a little bit extra information in there. And I can go in and create a branch for this change. So let's do that. So we can go in and do B for branch in the Magit status buffer, and this gives us an opportunity to create to switch to a branch with B, or check out a new branch, which will create a new branch and check out to it. So I'm going to do that. So if we do C, check out new branch, specify where we're coming from. So we're coming from develop, and then the name for the new branch is going to be Spacemacs layout readme update. So you can see that I'm in that branch there in the head at the top there, and we need to push it, but we can't push it directly to Spacemacs itself. I'm not a maintainer on there, so what I'll need to do is go and create a fork. So we're going into the GitHub menu. I can clone and fork, so press F again, and that will fork. And this is asking me where to select. I already got origin set as the Spacemacs. I've already got origin set as a Spacemacs alias, so we select that, and it's setting the remote to JRocket of my fork. That's where it's defaulted the fork to. So we'll say enter for that, and set that remote push to the default of JRocket. Yes. And if we actually go and have a look at GitHub now, then we should be able to see that So if we have a look at GitHub, we can go have a look at my repositories, and we should be able to see that there should be a Spacemacs file here, which I've just forked. So this exists. So this is the fork I've created. So we'll need to keep that page open for the end when we want to do the pull request. But let's go back and finish off what we need to do inside Spacemacs itself. So we're on a new branch, so we can actually just simply stage this with S and then create a new commit. And it's just a normal new commit, so we do CC and then we put in a commit message. I like to define the layer that we're going to create this change upon. So just put in square brackets the name of the layer that we're working with. And we just add a nice meaningful commit message to this so that when the maintainers look at this, they'll be able to very quickly decide whether they want to merge it or not. And then comma to finalize the commit and create it locally. So now we've got a local commit here, and we just need to actually push this up to our commands. We just need to push this up to our forked repository. You see, it doesn't actually exist yet. We just do capital P for push, and then if we do P again, you see it'll push this branch up to our remote and actually create it at the same time. We don't need to do anything else. If we had if we'd already done a push and we wanted to update it, we could do that with a force with lease. But this is a new commit by itself, so we can just push that straight up. Just going to push that up to GitHub, and then it's done. And if we switch back to the browser, and switch back to GitHub website, and we can see that we should have a pull request here. There we go. And we can basically press this button and start the pull request process. And there we go. We need to set the right base repository, and while the base repository is correct, we need to set the branch that we're working from. So we're doing develop. So we always do pull requests against develop. And now we can see that we're able to merge. There's not much difference there. Just double check my repository. Yes, this is where it's coming from. This is the branch I want to merge. And then we can just check to see whether the pull request is actually meaningful, which is yeah, there's just a message here to remind you to ensure it's against the develop branch, not the master branch. I can just delete that. I'm just going to add an extra link in here to define where I got the documentation from. I don't remember where it was. Where the hell was it? So I'm happy with the details of the pull request, and so I can just press pull request, and this will inform the project maintainers that it's ready to go. And it's going to do some checks for me as well, and hopefully all the Circle CI tests are going to pass, and that makes it even easier for the maintainers just to accept that. So it's going to run a little bit longer. It'll take a while. It's probably going to be queued. We can go and look at the details of what it's actually doing. Well, we can just have some patience and wait for the there we go. Wait for the developers to have a look at the pull request. It's a fairly simple one, so it should be easy enough for them to accept. And it's at this point I realized I've actually missed something off. I should really have added something to the change log. I hadn't done that, so I actually want to make a change to this pull request. This is fairly simple. I can go back to my editor and go back to the project, and so these are, and if I go and open the changelog develop, then I can add the change that I've just made, and this again helps people keep track of everything that's being added to Spacemacs as it goes along. So this is a layer change and fix, and it's for the layouts. I'll search for Spacemacs layouts. Oh, there we go. So we've got this Spacemacs layout restricted tab thing, which is where the actual code of this change has been made. So we can actually do a fix to say that we've also added the documentation in here as well. I can actually copy this line, just do YY and copy that, and add that to the end of here as well. When I open the changelog develop, it's opening as a buffer that's read-only. So before I can actually change anything, I'll need to switch that mode. So if I do space buffer and then W, this would toggle the read-only mode. And this is the same for if we open up a file that's like an org file from the Spacemacs project. By default, it'll open up as read-only mode. So we press W and then that disables read-only mode. And then we can go in and do O to create a new line. Paste that line in and just modify it. So just describe what the change is and then just add your name, so you've got some credit there as well, so we know who's done that. We save the file, and then we go back to our Git Magit status, so space GS. We see we've got a change there. We could just press tab to just double check what we've added. That looks good. And so we can do a commit. So we do C, but we don't want to create a new one. We could create a new commit and just add this and then squash them onto GitHub. Ideally, though, we can, if we just do a commit amend, then that basically is the same commit. We're creating a new commit from the original commit, but we're just adding that extra file. And we just do comma, comma to create that commit. And then you see we've got like an unpulled and an unpushed commit. If we do push now, we can resolve that. So we do push, but we do a force push now. So we do a -F. And that sets a force with lease argument on our push. And then we can just do P to push to our fork. And that will update the pull request automatically for us. Oh, so we didn't bloody stage that change. So if we stage that change and then do a commit, and instead of creating a new commit, we just amend the previous commit. This will create a new commit, but it creates a new commit from the old one, so we don't have to re-enter any of the commit message. We can keep that it is, and it's adding the commit detail and the extra file to our commit. So we just do comma, comma, and now we need to push with a force because we've got an unpulled commit and an unpushed commit, so they will conflict. But if we do a push with capital P and then do -F for force with lease, so now this one, the new commit that we've created will overwrite the old commit on the remote repository. And we just push to finalize that, and off we go. And if we go back to our commit on our pull request on GitHub, and we can see now we've got files changed, which is 2. So we've added documentation in here to the changelog develop, as well as the actual documentation itself in our README org. And that's it. And now we just have to wait for the maintainers to have a look at it, and hopefully that will get accepted and make it easier for people to use Spacemacs in future. Okay, thank you very much for listening, and see you next time. Goodbye.